What would the good old Monty program be without a drama-filled Pac-12 update for you? And I think when you look at this story, it's something we've talked about for going on 2 months now. With the college football playoff and the situation with the Pac-12, sources telling us today that the college football playoff committee is very strongly leaning towards a 5-7 model, which, of course, on the screen you see there would remove the Pac-2 from the college football playoff in 2024. Going forward, we were talking to sources today who told us that the sentiment was very strongly against keeping the Pac-2 in the college football playoff. Now, of course, you understand that if the Pac-12 at that point with 2 members, Oregon State and Washington State, were able to keep its status as an automatic qualifier, if you will, which would be a 6-6 model, 6 highest ranked conference champions and 6 at-large bids. That would absolutely give the Pac-12 an unfair advantage, as I am told by sources close to the committee that they are unwilling to do that at this point. I was also told that's why the College Football Playoff Committee has not taken any action. They have had multiple meetings where they had the opportunity to talk about this. They had the opportunity to make a decision, and they chose to do nothing because there's nothing that is forcing the College Football Playoff Committee to act. And I am told today that they do not wish to keep the Pac-12 with just 2 members in the college football playoff. And Jake, I know how passionate you are about this. Do you agree or disagree with this move?
No, I mean, I agree with it completely. How can we have a conference with 2 teams and it continue to have the AQ, the automatic qualifier, into the college football playoff, right? Like, how can we just, if you set the whole Pac-12 situation aside, just generally speaking, if I said to you, hey, a conference melted down, they've got 2 teams left that are trying to determine what their future is going to look like, do you think we should still give them the automatic qualifier? Even though with only two teams, that essentially guarantees, if they just win some games, they'll get in, right? Because there's not much competition left in their conference, number one, right? Even though with that advantage, we haven't even gotten to the monetary advantage. So, there's all these unfair advantages that giving them the automatic qualifier presents. And so then the next question every Pac-12 defender or apologist wants to say, or even on my Twitter today, all the Oregon State fans were like, well, dude, hey, cut us a break, give us a chance. And it's like, hey, I wish that's what this conversation was about. I wish we were having a conversation about what you like a break that we could cut you, or maybe some slack that we could give you. But the reality of the situation is you're on the outside looking in, and you have been for a decade. And that's the reality of the situation. So the next step in the process is, well, what happens if we merge with the Mountain West? Wouldn't that give us the AQ? Right? Wouldn't that allow us to keep our automatic qualifier into the college football playoff? And my opinion on that is no. Because right now, we're sitting here having a conversation about rewarding 2 schools that were on the short end of the stick in realignment and expansion of other conferences. We're talking about rewarding them. So let me get this right. We're not going to reward them, but if they merge with another conference at the G5 level, we're going to reward all those schools and them. No, that doesn't work. And so for me, I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense really in any scenario to give these 2 schools, or those 2 schools and the Mountain West under the Pac-12 umbrella currently, the automatic qualifier. That just should not happen, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a tough road to climb, because our sources also told us that the general sentiment is to a 5-7 model, which means the 5 highest ranked conference champions. Now, that you have 9 at that point. If you remove the Pac-12, you would be down to 9 conferences. The 5 highest ranked of those 9 conferences will get a bid to the college football playoff, and then you would have 7 at-large bids. That 5-7 model, as we talked about last week, because there was all this ruckus, which is completely untrue and completely unfounded, about the Big 12 moving to add the Oregon State and Washington State. And as we told you last week on the show, our sources at the Big 12, and it was multiple sources and sources in television now as well, have told us that it was never a consideration to add Oregon State and Washington State to the Big 12. And we're told that in that situation, sure, that absolutely puts those two schools in position. But if they remain just those two in the Pac-12, we are told that they have absolutely no path to the college football playoff, and that they would have no chance of being recognized by the College Football Playoff Committee. And I tend to be with you. At that point, you're giving the Pac-12 with two teams an absolutely unfair advantage. Now, having said that, our sources close to the College Football Playoff Committee this afternoon tell us that if the Pac-2 and the Mountain West were to merge, that it is very likely that that conference would be able to make a strong enough case to remain a Power 5 conference, to remain in a situation where the College Football Playoff Committee would have to strongly consider staying at a 6-6 model. Now, this is going to be hotly debated. I am told that without question, there will be a line right down the middle of the subcommittees in the College Football Playoff Committee about the status of a conference with two Pac-12 teams in Oregon State and Washington State and the balance of the Mountain West. Because just like Jake, there is a lot of varying opinions about the veracity of that conference as a P5. Sure, it would have a P5 brand in the Pac-12, but just because you're wearing somebody's shirt doesn't mean you're dressing like them, as the old saying goes. And what I would tell you is, I think that that conference would not be recognized as a P5, but certainly you would stay at a 6-6 model, and you would take the 6 highest ranked conference champions, and that would include whoever would be the champion of the Pac-12. They would get an automatic spot in the college football playoff. And Jake, I know that you are adamantly opposed to that.
Yeah, and the other problem with this is all of this is solved by winning, right? Hey, if you're so good, win on the football field, Washington State and Oregon State. If you want to put all this nonsense aside, auto qualifiers and, merging with the Mountain West and all that good stuff, you want to put all that aside, win football games. Go out and prove that you should be in the top 25 week in and week out the entire season. Go out and prove that you can crawl into that 12-team college football playoff, because that's what it's going to take. That's how you put all this to bed. That's how you say, hey, it doesn't matter if my conference has an automatic qualifier, or, if we're a P5, or it doesn't matter. All that matters is we're inside that top 12 and we secured our spot. And yes, that gets a lot easier if, you stay P5 and, you don't necessarily have to worry about winning your conference at that point. You can get an at-large bid. But my point just simply is, why are we handing out free passes to people who don't deserve them? Right? Because, again, we shouldn't be handing out a free pass to a conference that only has 2 teams. Okay, well, if we're going to use that logic, what do you say about the Big Ten? What do you say about the SEC that's largely a 2-team league? In some years, it's 3 or 4. What do you say about the ACC? Well, what I say about that is those conferences didn't melt down. Those conferences have been alive for however long now.
And have long-standing reputations. And I think one of the other things that's so interesting here is you have to understand this is not for this coming playoff. It is for a year and a half from now. The situation this year is unchanged. We are talking about the 2024-2025 season. That is when all of this happens. And one of the other things that I thought was so interesting is one of our sources today went out of their way to say, when you talk about this today, please drive home the point that the College Football Playoff Committee and the subcommittees related to the College Football Playoff are separate and unrelated to the NCAA. Mm-hmm. That the two bodies function completely separately, and one really has no influence over the other. I think that is a tremendous point. And again, Jake, it's one that you've made several times on this show.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important. This isn't a bylaws with the NCAA argument, which so many have tried to make. It's not, hey, like on Twitter over the last couple of weeks, everybody has been pushing how well Washington State has played and how well Oregon State has played. And I don't even disagree with you. But that's for this season, and this season in the grand scheme of things moving forward for the Pac-12 is almost meaningless for the future of the league, because you're having 10 members exit the league.
Yes.
So what happens this year, as well as Washington State has performed, as well as Oregon State has performed, and that includes beating Utah, the back-to-back Pac-12 champions this past weekend, it doesn't matter going forward by a year because you're going to be reduced. And again, I think the college football playoff should be the last of the concerns for these two remaining members of the Pac-12 because you got to find a schedule to play for all of your sports. And football is probably one of the easier sports to schedule, but your basketball, your softball, your gymnastics, your golf, that's where this becomes more complicated. And I think we're all wrapped up in, hey, are they going to get an automatic spot? Do they qualify for an automatic spot as a top 6? That's all well and good, and we should consider that. But I think the bigger question is, when are they going to have a settlement with the 10 exiting members and the 2 remaining? What's going to happen with the Mountain West and the Pac-2? And again, I will also say my sources continue to indicate to me that the Pac-2 and the Mountain West pretty much have chiseled out a framework for a merger. But nothing can happen until the Pac-2 clearly defines their ownership and control of the liquidity and the assets of the Pac-12 conference. Mm-hmm. And once that situation is settled, they have a November 14th trial date, but I am told that they are not going to get there, that the overwhelming likelihood is that there will be a settlement because everything on paper is very heavily in favor of Oregon State and Washington State. So going to court, if you're the 10 remaining members, seems like, a death march, if you will. I think it's very likely that there is a settlement because the elephant in the room is if you're the Pac-2, you can't wait until November, December, January through trial delays and holiday delays and discovery. You can't wait for that process to play out. It's going to cost you financially, but you're willing to, or you should be. And nobody said Kirk Shultz is good at athletics, but he's a wonderful businessman when it comes to academics. You should be willing to give up some of your money for future earnings and a merger with the Mountain West because that's your ticket to the college football playoff. And you continue to hear Oregon State and Washington State talk about the fact that they want to play competition at the highest level. Well, how do you do that? How do you do that? And you look at this presentation that President Murthy and Athletic Director Barnes gave. This is not your way when you have a $42 million shortfall at Oregon State. You don't fix this by going to court and being delayed months and months and months and months. That's not how you fix a shortfall like that. You fix a shortfall by being practical and taking short-term loss for long-term gain, in my opinion. And I think the only other piece of news on this that I think is really significant is this conversation about a 5-7 model versus a 6-6 model because it's completely different. Mm-hmm. And the idea that the Pac-2 could be recognized by the College Football Playoff Committee, I'm told today that there is just no way that happens.
Yeah, and I just think the College Football Playoff Committee, has a responsibility on so many levels. I mean, a lot of people just want to say, well, the committee's got a responsibility to make sure that everyone has access. Well, yeah, sure, I guess in premise, but the committee's actual responsibility is to make sure that they create the best system possible to allow the money to flow through the sport. That's my opinion, right? As a College Football Playoff Committee, yeah, are you deciding, who's ranked where and how you want to match make? Absolutely. But really what you're doing is you're saying, okay, how do we create the best matchups possible within a logical thought process of where a team should be ranked? What kind of story can we tell? Who can we push up a little further? Who can we bring down? What levers can we pull to make sure that we draw the biggest audience possible to appease ESPN and our television partners? That's their job. So if that's your job, why would you go out of your way? Why would you inconvenience or do something you don't need to do to bring in two schools that don't do anything in football?
Yeah.
They just don't.
But again, this is the hard part about the conversation about the Big 12 supposedly wanting to take on Oregon State and Washington State. There's not a lot of value for the Big 12 there. Like, you look at this Colorado TV number. I mean, I don't know how they continue to do it. I have no idea how Colorado continues to dominate television ratings. That they, at 9 a.m. Pacific time in Los Angeles, and this is important because who did they play in Boulder, Colorado? They played USC from Los Angeles. At 9 a.m. with a kickoff, they averaged 7.2 million viewers and peaked at 10.3.
I'm for real.
Like, that's wild to me that they peaked at 10.3. Can you imagine? And I know everybody says that I pick on Washington State and that I love Oregon State too much. Can you imagine Oregon State or Washington State pulling a number at 9 a.m. in the morning where they average 7.2 million viewers?
No.
I have a hard time believing that. Not as the status quo. I think that is an awfully tall hill to climb. And when we talk about whether or not, Oregon State and Washington State have value, sure they do. Are they winning on the field this year? They are. But is that the norm at Washington State? Has that been the regular at Washington State? It is not. And you are so dysfunctional as a management team at Washington State that Kirk Shultz, we have been told repeatedly, is not somebody that a lot of power brokers in college sports want to do business with. And I understand that. He has had problematic situations everywhere he's been. And you look at this situation with his staff and his faculty being unhappy with the athletic budget, and by some accounts, they were going to do a sit-in, which they forced him into releasing a statement. We broke the news on the show that, hey, he is going to, do a hiring freeze. And Kirk Shultz is not a well-respected guy. And the real tragedy here is not Washington State, it's Oregon State, where you have a very dynamic athletic program that across the board has been successful. You have one of the best athletic directors in the Mountain West of the Rockies, really, in Scott Barnes. And you just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And you happen to hitch your wagon to the wrong horse, man. Like that's truly the tragedy of Oregon State. It's not that Oregon State's not well respected. They are tremendously respected. You look at the renovation at Reser Stadium. You look at the football program. You look at what they've accomplished in baseball and basketball. Like, you don't have to go far to ask anybody in college athletics if Oregon State is a well-respected brand, and the overwhelming answer is yes. But that does not mean that the Big 12 sees value in Corvallis. And we've talked about this as well. I talked to a TV source today who said Corvallis is not Portland. Eugene, Oregon, and the Oregon Ducks deliver you Portland, and part of Washington as well. And if you want Seattle, now let's make an argument for Washington State, because Washington State does well on television, and they do get good penetration into Seattle. But the issue is perception's reality. Kirk Shultz is a pain in the ass. And if you want Seattle in the Pacific Northwest, you're going to Washington and Oregon. You're not going to Washington State and Oregon State. That is the painful reality of it. This whole story about, hey, the PAC-2, and I don't know how much more legwork you need to do to recognize this situation is not sustainable as a two-university conference.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
And the answer isn't a free pass out of the College Football Playoff Committee.
No, it's not.
That's not the answer. The answer is take your medicine, settle the lawsuit, merge with the Mountain West, and let's see how it shakes out. That's the answer. And I get it. That's not a great answer. That's not a sexy answer for Washington State or Oregon State. And more to the point, because Oregon State will be fine in the Mountain West.
Oregon State will be fine.
They'll dominate that conference. They'll get opportunities. I firmly believe that. Washington State's the different story because they have debt load in their athletic department, and they're not going to make...
And dysfunction.
Yeah, and dysfunction. They're not going to make the kind of money they need to make to dig out of that debt load in athletics. And I think that is the hard part. So when everyone this past week has been talking about, these two schools going to the Big 12, that's a bunch of crap. If we're going to sit here and talk about the future of these two schools, it's very straightforward. You're going to the Mountain West.
And the funny part about all of this is we do a lot of outreach on this show. We talk to a lot of different people. Very rarely do you get somebody that's adamant. And it's not one person that's adamant. It's multiple people who are adamant. Like talking to people involved in the Pac-12, and they know that they cannot sustain two universities. Yet there's all of this noise out here. Oh, the Pac-2 is staying together. For what? And they know that. They understand that, right? Like you talk to people in TV and they're like, this isn't even a possibility. Like I had somebody in television say to me, we've got to stop doing this in the media. It's never been a possibility.
So get your facts
Talking
straight.
to people at the Big 12, adamant. And usually I don't fill in conversations with color commentary about things that were like, we had somebody tell us this was what a stupid question. That like people in the Big 12 want nothing to do with Oregon State and Washington State. They are solely focused on what's going on in the ACC.
Stupid ass questions.
Solely focused on 3 to 5 years down the road, building their. And I think the quote was, we are solely focused on the business of building our business.
Yeah.
Because they know that they have to add money, that they have to add revenue sources, because when all of this, and most people think in the next 3 to 5 years, realignment will have completely refaced the college football. You've got to have resources and you have to have agility, the ability to move. If you go to 20 right now with where the Big 12 is at, or the Big 10 is at even, like you're done. Like you are weighted down. You are adding weight to a sinking ship, and you can't do it. And they won't do it. And they don't want to go to nobody wants to be at 20 right now.
Yeah.
Now, if the ACC melts down, you could be talking about conferences going to 20.
That's what I'm saying. All the answers lie in the behavior of the conferences, right?
Yes.
So the conferences are telling us what we need to know without telling us anything, which is, hey, nobody wants to go to 20 because they know the ticking time bomb out east. They understand the situation. And so that's why I say every school in the ACC should learn the Washington State, Oregon State lesson. If you're not marketing and you're not winning on the field, you will get left behind and nobody cares about you. It's the reality of the business. And I think we haven't seen much of this up until this point because we haven't seen a realignment and expansion on this level in college football. The volatility in the market, as they say, right? It's such a fine line. You either are or you are not. There's no little Cinderella story in the middle.
I want to go back to this thing about winning on the field and the importance of it. I look at Stanford and Cal and SMU. SMU might be the best example
Seriously.
in this Pac-2 situation. There's zero value in people in the Big 12, people in television. We reported this all summer long. People repeatedly told us there's one value at SMU. They will take zero money from you, and they will bring money and they will pay you money to join your conference. The Pac-12, I think, probably would have added SMU had they stayed together. The Big 12 wanted nothing to do with SMU, and the ACC only added 3 teams that don't win games. Cal, Stanford, and SMU that don't win games. On the football field and the basketball court, I'd mind you. Because it gave most of the members, excluding Florida State and Clemson, it gave them a voting advantage, number one. And number two, SMU made everybody a bunch of money.
Now, if you guys want to talk about, hey, why did they add Calford over Oregon State and Washington State? That is got life to it. I think
that's easy.
That's a serious conversation. Like to me, I think that you chose Calford over Oregon and Washington State simply because nobody wants to do business with Kirk Shultz, and everyone damn well knows that Washington State and Oregon State, given the situation, were a package deal.
And Stanford and Cal make you money outside of athletics They raise your IQ factor with advertisers because they're fantastic educational institutions. So you're going to make brand money. You're going to make academic money. You're going to make research money. And it delivers you the San Francisco Bay, Northern California market, which currently only one conference really has, and that is now the ACC. So there's lots of value in that. The problem for Oregon State and Washington State, when you compare it to Stanford and Cal, is they're not great academically compared to Stanford and Cal because who is, right?
Yeah.
So you're not going to make it. It's not the automatic, like rubber stamp, yes, we want Stanford and Cal. Pretty much, I mean, outside of the Big Ten, who, much like the Big 12, didn't want to add 6 Pac-12 teams. That was something that everybody else seems to think, was never talked about. And I was the first one to tell you, and I don't mind saying that, the Big 12 doesn't want 6 Pac-12 teams. It wants, the Big 12, I am told, wants nothing to do with that. And again, I'll tell you the same thing I said last week. We were told directly, the headache is leaving the conference in Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
We're not bringing a headache in with 6 brothers and sisters hanging out together.
Nope.
And I think that is absolutely the right way to go. And I think in the Big Ten, it was twofold. They didn't want to go to 20, and they didn't want to add 6 Big 12 teams. Or, Pac-12 teams. So there's all these reasons. Are any of them good? If you're a fan of Oregon State or Washington State, are any of them good? Probably not. Are they good enough? Probably not. Are they reality? Hell yeah, they are. And there's nothing you're going to do about it.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of the situation. Because if you're a behemoth, and it's Notre Dame. Notre Dame's a pain in the ass. And I'm a Notre Dame fan, right? Notre Dame is a pain in the ass.
Notre Dame, our mother.
Notre Dame walks around with a massive jackhammer over their shoulder, and they're like, they get what they want. They were a problem in the ACC, right? Hey, yeah, we'll join, but we're not going to give you the thing that you really want, which is football. And we're going to be a gigantic pain in the ass, too. When it comes to like voting on stuff and giving our opinion, yeah, we're going to be a gigantic pain in the ass. But why did you do that? Because Notre Dame makes you money.
Yep.
Notre Dame puts people on their TV sets. Notre Dame sells tickets. Notre Dame sells merchandise with that little ACC logo on it. Like, Notre Dame helps you make money. Does Oregon State do that?
No.
They don't. Does Washington State and money making do not go hand in hand?
No.
Ever on any level?
No.
Now, do they bring people to the TV? Washington State does. Do they win football games? Sometimes. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. It's not unequivocal. It's not a slam dunk. But it is what it is. Whew. How we all doing?
We're good.
All right. Less of us, more of you. Only after we hit our daily buckshot right here on the Monty Show. And I got to tell you guys, we are rocketing towards a goal that we have worked really hard to reach with BuckedUp. We are trying to move 300 sample packs of BuckedUp's buckshot. It's free. In the description below, you guys can get 6 free buckshots. No strings attached. If you just go to the link, click the link, that's exactly what you're going to see on your screen right there. Claim your 6 free buckshots, fill out your information, and they'll send them right to your front door. And I tell you, every single day, it's clean, long-lasting energy that gets you through your day. Like, my wife today had a huge presentation. She's like kind of a big deal. She works at a major corporation. She did a global presentation today. And what did she do about 30 minutes before that? She had a buckshot.
I'm for real.
Because it gives you mental clarity. It's 200 milligrams of natural sourced caffeine and a bunch of brain food. So it gives you energy and it gives you a mental lift. So there's no crash. There's no spike. It's just really high quality ingredients that make a really high quality product that does exactly what it says it's going to do. So we are 25% of the way to 100 6-packs giving away a buckshot. So everybody right now, if you could, A, hit the like button, and then B, there's 600 people watching the show. If you could go and get your sample of buckshot, your free 6 buckshots, hook it up, that would really help us. We appreciate that. We're trying to break a record at BuckedUp for most buckshot samples in a month. Let's make October special. BuckedUp.com, the official energy provider of the Monty Show. Oh, by the way, should you need more supplements, do not hesitate to use the promo code Monty20 to get 20% off at checkout at BuckedUp.com. All right, let's get your comments in here. Thank you very much for being here every day. We could not do what we do without you guys. You are amazing. Oh, man, always a good way to start the show. A brand new member, Kyle A. Welcome back to the membership.
Let's go, baby. Good start to the day here.
Let's go, Kyle A. Appreciate you. Big Blue Horses for $5. So the college football playoff gives the Big 10 3 spots, the SEC 3 spots, Notre Dame a spot, ACC 1 spot, Big 12 1 spot, and 3 at large for everybody else. The CFP is the Big and the SEC centered anyways. The way this would work, and see, I don't even think you're wrong. Like, you're going to have, by default almost, you're going to have the SEC get 2 lost teams into the college football playoff. When it's a 12-team playoff, it's going to piss people off that, no, UTSA didn't get in, but Alabama, let's say, or Auburn or Florida, but they're going to lose like 6 games until they fire their coach, with all due respect.
Because it's garbage.
You're going to have 2 loss, maybe a 3-loss SEC team get in. Now in the Big Ten, you're going to have, routinely, you're going to have Ohio State and Michigan losing multiple games every single year. And they're still going to get into the college football playoff. Is Fresno State, a 1-loss team, going to get passed over for a 2-loss Ohio State? You goddamn right they will.
Yes.
And you better get used to it. You don't have to like it, but you better learn to love it.
Yeah.
Because it is what it is. And that's big-time college football. And the one thing I would caution you, and again, I'm not trying to be a red ass and I'm not trying to stir the pot, but I'm just telling you now, just because there's an expanded college football playoff does not mean the table has been leveled or...
Oh, the little guy has more opportunity. The biggest crock of crap I've heard in a long time.
No, they don't. And they're not going to. It just is what it is, as much as you hate that. And I understand why you hate that. I do. Kyle Wilson, Monty and Jake just want Oregon State and Washington State. So it's us. We're the ones. Like, we have any decision on this? What are you talking about? Want Oregon State and Washington State to become permanently irrelevant. Winning the Mountain West will always mean absolutely nothing, bringing 0 money. Okay, so tell us you don't understand the college football playoff without telling us you don't understand the college football playoff. First of all, if you win the Mountain West, my guess is you'll be one of the 6 highest ranked conference champions. That's just strictly a guess based on the fact that, yeah, the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12, the Big 10, yeah, they're getting in, right? So, and then you're going to have one more for your 5-7, right? So the 5, let's say it's 5-7. The 5 highest rated conference. You don't think winning a new Pac-12 Mountain West merger conference gets you into the college football playoff? That's what you're saying here. Because, I want Oregon State and Washington State to be irrelevant. Why would I want Oregon State?
It's not what we want. It's what it is. That's what I'm saying. Going to the Mountain West provides Oregon State opportunities, because I believe Oregon State beats Washington State most matchups, especially at Reser. So if we're projecting forward, Oregon State will have plenty of opportunity. The only question is going to be, if you're going to be in a basically a 4A caliber Mountain West conference, what's the recruiting look like? What's the impact and talent that you're going to take? Like, how does that affect your football program? Because that's the conversation. But there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to win that conference and book yourself a spot. There's no reason.
It is beyond me that, and it's particularly Oregon State fan. How you're such a red ass, I have no idea. But can you not, put your guns down for 5 minutes, lower your hands for 5 minutes, and try to understand Why? So your idea then that a merger with the Mountain West is bad. Ask yourself what the PAC-2 is. Because if a Mountain West merger is bad, what is a PAC-2 alone? Tragic, terrible, awful, like a death knell?
I knew today would be shitty.
Because you're not going to bowl games. You're not going to the college football playoff. You have no bowl tie-ins, zero.
None.
So where are you going to find? Because if you're playing some kind of thrown together schedule, like, do you think about this stuff before you just like rage on about how we want what does we want Oregon State and Washington State have to do with any? We have zero power over anything. Like what I want Notre Dame to win the national championship every year. How's that working out?
Notre Dame, our mother.
Like, you can't win the national championship with 10 guys on the field. I just want you to know that, okay?
Thank you.
Just a piece of advice. Since
if
you
could
have all the power,
if you
now,
could send like a text message to Marcus Freeman and tell him that'd be great.
well, you have his number, right? I mean, because you know all these people.
Well, yeah.
and,
According to Kyle Wilson, I have all the power, and I just want. Or like, what are you talking about, guy? What are you talking about? Conference Commissioner Gumby, Notre Dame is a Latin term. Look, man, it's
Okay.
Latin. It's Latin for 10 men on the field.
Apparently.
It's ridiculous. Christopher Shannon. Now here comes all the Notre Dame hate, I'm sure. Notre Dame is a brand, and that's it. They are holding on to oldness.
At least they're relevant, dude.
They are one of the, and if they're holding on to oldness, apparently oldness makes you money. Because the biggest problem at Notre Dame, they don't have to go out and earn it on the field anymore. They don't, because they get huge TV money. They're looking at, do you guys understand that they're looking at a $75 million a year deal with NBC?
They can afford to have 10 guys on the field on the goal line, bud.
Because you're making money hand over fist, and it's all yours. You don't have to split it. None of that. Their football only is $75 million a year.
Which pays for everything else, and then you're going to profit. So what are we talking about?
Notre Dame, the biggest problem in Notre Dame is they don't have to earn anything.
Yeah.
And when everything's given to you, you get complacent. And I think hiring Marcus Freeman is absolutely complacent. I think it is a huge mistake to have hired. I hate it. Please don't get me started. Let's see. Connor Johnson. I just want to know how the college football playoff is going to change their model with Shultz having a vote on the board. God. Okay, so I don't know. And I've explained this 1,000 times. How much influence do you think Kurt Shultz has? So you're in a room with a bunch of other people.
Hey, guys.
And you're the only dissenting voice at the table. Do you really think he's going to hold out? Or, and I know I could be crazy, maybe they tell him, we'll give you a 6-6, or we're open to a 6-6 now that you've merged with the Mountain West. Because do you really think Kirk Shultz is walking into a college football playoff committee meeting and saying, nope, I'm standing on my own? We are the Pac-2, and you MFers are going to give us $320 million.
Washington State, our mother.
I've asked this question directly to people, and people laugh at me every time I ask it. Like I talked to a source last week, and I was like, how much sway does Kurt Shultz have? And the answer started with, oh, man. That's what the answer started. Do you really think Kirk Shultz is, do you think he's the Don sitting at the head of the table and he's like, all right, yeah, go drop a dime on whatever G5 team so we can get in? Do you really think he has any sway at all? He has no sway whatsoever. Because when you stand in front of a freight train, and that's what the college football playoff is. Imagine Kurt Shultz standing on the track in front of a bullet train. Who wins?
Ain't ducking, no smoke.
Because I'm telling you, the bullet train's undefeated. Kirk Shultz doesn't have the sway, the influence, and you know what else he doesn't have? The relationships. I've said it 1,000 times over the last 3 to 6 months. Kirk Shultz has zero sphere. He has zero influence. He doesn't have a lot of friends. He's not Jack Swarbrick at Notre Dame, who knows everybody and their mother. He's not that guy, pal. He's not.
Yeah.
So you can talk about how he's on the subcommittees and, hey, this guy's on the subcommittee. When it ultimately comes down to one dude standing in the way, who do you think's going to win?
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
And here's the other thing. And again, I know I'm just little old Monty over here. Well, just trying to do whatever I can do to screw Oregon State and Washington State.
We really did.
So why hasn't he stood in the way already? They've had meetings for the last 10 days. What did they have, 5 straight days of meetings the other week? Did he stand in the way? No. You know why? Because they wouldn't even give him the chance to stand in the way, dude. They wouldn't even give him the chance.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even talk about his conference. They wouldn't even talk about 5766. Because when these decisions are made, do you really think they make these decisions? And I'm not trying to be an asshole about this. I'm truly not. But do you really think they make these decisions when they walk in the room like, all right, everybody come on in. Let's So what do you guys think about this 5-7 nonsense?
It's probably different than what you're thinking, though.
Why don't we just take a quick vote and see where we're at? Do you really think that's how this game is played, friends? These are all millionaires. These are all highfalutin people. And I know, let's get crazy, they all have phones. Oh, my God.
Dude, chill.
They all have telephones, and they
Ain't no reset.
They talk when they're not meeting. Like, you guys think about this before you say stuff like, I just want to know how the college football playoff committee is going to change their model with Shultz having a vote on the board. You really think he has the power to stand in the way? And even if he had the power, do you think he would stand in the way? How much damage would he do to the PAC-2? Because that would be the only way he would stand in the way. Which, again, I know I'm just guy over here trying to screw over Washington State and Oregon State.
Right.
But the only reason Kirk Shultz would stand in the way of 5-7 versus 6-6 is if he was trying to keep the PAC-2 together.
Well, that's the issue, isn't it?
Where it's just the PAC-2 and it's the two of us against all of you and screw the bullet train, I'm getting on the tracks. Kirk Shultz doesn't want to be the PAC-2. He wants to merge with the Mountain West. He knows that's the path to athletic prosperity financially.
But how does he do that? Oh, that's right. It has nothing to do with the college football playoff. He needs to settle the case so they can get on with getting on and building schedules and merging with the Mountain West.
Stop it. You're hurting people's feelings.
Dude, then he can roll in with his smug-ass face and glasses and try to take over the college football playoff with his board vote.
I'm just trying, you guys. I am just trying to get you to a place where you think through this stuff before you say, like, again, let me get another.
My bad.
Beaver Shane. I love that Shultz is making this so difficult for the shitheads. He's
not, though.
He's not.
He's not. That's what I'm saying. So, Oregon State fan right now, with all due respect, because I don't mean this personally, you're suffering little brother syndrome right now. You are quite literally in a place where you're like, oh, Kirk Shultz is getting in the way, and it's us against the world. And even though he's not the president of our institution.
But it's this comment, Michael Langford, who wants to run out head-to-head records. And what is that? What is, and Michael, you're smarter than me, very clearly. Very clearly, you are your brain is, but I'm just asking, what does this have to do with how does this impact the college football playoff? How does this impact 5-7-6-6? How does this impact the court case of the PAC-2 versus the 10 exiting members?
When's the last time I was talking about Oregon State and Washington State in December?
I'm trying to help you guys. And you want to keep going back to, Washington State's record. Nobody's doubting that Washington State has people that watch TV in Seattle. Nobody is doubting that. And if you're a Washington State fan, I'd love your rationale on how you think there is anything that is normal. The wheel is greased and quiet and it just turns and we make money and win games at Washington State. Because I can tell you, I have talked to people in both Pullman. I have talked to people in Spokane. Like, nobody thinks that. You don't have a faculty sit-in over the athletic budget Because Washington State, what do you say here? Washington State 57-47 in the last 10 years over Oregon State. Well, fuck, let them spend as much money as they want then. I mean, I'm just going to go back to the chemistry lab. They know what they're doing because they beat Oregon State every year.
By the way, if you're going to come after me on that comment, my man, let's define winning. See, again, more little brother syndrome here, right? You're making me, you're not breaking me, as Prime says. What did you do with this comment? You showed me that you're only thinking about what happens with Washington State and Oregon State. This conversation isn't about the head-to-head, man. This conversation's about what happens in December.
Yes.
This conversation's about what happens with ESPN. You know that little 4-star network that puts on the college football playoff every year? You've not been in it. You haven't even been a factor in it. So that's what I'm talking about. Yes, people watch your football games. No, not enough people watch your football games to affect the college football playoff. No, you don't win enough to be relevant in December. In your conference, I'll say this, in your conference, Oregon State and Washington State have wrecked many USC seasons. There's no question about that.
I just don't...
It's not difficult.
I don't understand why, Oregon State fan, why are you so mad? Why? Like, I don't know that I could say anything, any more niceties than I have ever said about. I've never said a cross word about Oregon State.
By the way, we've only been sitting here for the last month talking about how Oregon State and Washington State should go to the Mountain West because that's essentially a yellow brick road to the college football playoff.
This is the last Oregon State comment I'm going to read the entire day until tomorrow. I can't do it anymore. Kyle, I want to help you, but dude, you just keep digging another foot down into your grave. What is Colorado won? What is ASU won? Okay, well, here, let me spell it out for you.
Man, wow.
I think you might be trolling at this point. I can't believe this is truly what you believe as a comment. I can't believe it. Dude, you know what Colorado won? You know, they won the Coach Prime Derby, who put 7.2 million people on their TVs at 9 a.m. Pacific time. That's what they won. You know what else they won? They sold out their stadium for the entire year. You know what else they won? Everybody wants to flex them into their national TV schedule.
What did Utah and Oregon State draw this week? Oh, that's right, 1.28 million at home in your recently renovated stadium.
Try that on for size, man. 9 a.m. in the morning when every USC fan is still sleeping off a hangover. Because notice the second line peaked at 10.3 million viewers, 3:30 to 3:45 Eastern. Why did it peak at 3:30 to 3:45? Eastern. You know why? Because, we had a frat house party last night. Friday night was unbelievable. You guys, I don't know if you have seen the co-eds at USC, but... dude, slept that one off. Oh, that's right. We're at Colorado. Let's flip on the TV at 12:30 in the afternoon in Los Angeles. Friends, that's what you don't understand. And what is ASU won? Nothing. You know what ASU's won? They're friends with Bobby Robbins down in Tucson, who has one of the most desirable basketball brands in all of college hoop.
Hey, did ASU get into another conference in realignment, by the way?
And you may be new to the show, and again, I'm going to buy into the fact that this is a trolling comment. But if you don't understand that Utah has, do I really have to explain the football program at Utah to you?
What have they won? I don't know, just a conference the last 2 years?
Just back-to-back conference championships.
What are you talking about?
Just the fact that they have one of the most successful athletic departments in the country. They have one of the most desirable athletic directors in the country. They have a president who was a peacemaker and a facilitator and a communicator.
Isn't Mark Harlan part of the committee?
He is. And I don't think you get this. I just don't think you get it. I think this is 100%. I think this is because you can't possibly believe this.
Yeah.
You cannot possibly believe that Colorado has no worth to anybody.
Have they won anything? No, they haven't won anything. But they've won a couple games, but that doesn't matter.
I just keep telling you guys, Stanford and Cal. What has Stanford and Cal won?
Nothing.
Where are they? They're in the ACC. What has SMU won? Nothing. But their value is they bring money. Does Oregon State bring money? Does Washington State bring money? No, they bring debt. Again, I'm just showing you, because I want to make this clear. This is the last Oregon State comment on the show today. I'm over this trolling thing. This is what President Murphy and your athletic director, Scott Barnes, presented to the Oregon Assembly, which is the state assembly. So you bring money? No, you don't. You're $42.1 million in the hole going forward. So let me get this right. Colorado hasn't won anything, but their football stadium sold out for the entire year. They're drawing 10 million people on Fox. Yeah, why would we want that? Now let's get Oregon State, who is $42.1 million in debt, according to Oregon State, who presented this to the Oregon State Assembly. I don't think you can. That's why I say I'm sure that you know this. I'm sure that you know this. That's because I think you've commented on our show in the past, and you cannot possibly be this not.
Yeah.
Like you can't. It's not possible. No, they don't. And then you say stuff like wins matter. No, they don't. Not when you're talking about money. Then why is SMU, Cal, and Stanford in the ACC? You did a very poor job of representing Oregon State today. Aaron Wilson, my favorite is when Monty is frustrated and impassioned. It really pisses me off that Oregon State fans have this unbelievable athletic director, a president who, while she's new, is really working hard, and people actually like her, and you're just obstinate. Listen, Washington State fan, I understand. You guys got roller-cocked. I understand why you guys are upset. Like, I totally get it.
Macaque.
Right? I totally get it. I have no idea why Oregon State fan struggles with this math.
Because, dude, I know why. It's very easy to understand. You're little brother to Oregon, and that pisses you off, and I get it.
Johnny Gonzalez, Beaver fans, you're better than this. I totally agree.
That's what I'm saying.
Totally agree.
Like,
totally agree. Like it's remarkable that you can't grasp what Colorado means to the Big 12. That Coach Prime and his 10 million viewers, what that means to the Big 12.
Do you believe?
Who are losing Texas and Oklahoma, who are going to play arguably the most important regular season football game of the season on Saturday at the Cotton Bowl. Those two universities are going to the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to wonder what Colorado's value to the Big 12 is?
Come on now.
You're going to wonder what Arizona's value to the Big 12 is when they're talking about building the greatest college basketball machine we've ever seen? You're going to wonder what Utah's value to the Big 12 is when they're back-to-back Pac-12 champions and they've been to the Rose Bowl 2 years and their defense routinely recruits and puts guys in the NFL. And then I'm going to have to explain why Arizona, who tried to pull a revolt on joining the Big 12 and almost got you into the conference, I'm going to have to explain how Arizona State got in? Come on. Oregon State, you're way better than that. You are way better than that. All right. Congratulations, Oregon State. We just spent 20 minutes talking about it. And it's sad because I don't think the comments that were I don't believe that this cut of Oregon State fan represents the general Oregon State fan. I don't. We've had too many quality Oregon State fans on the show for too long. And yeah, there you go. All right.
Okay.
Football 50 presented, as always, by our good friends at Prize Picks. Oh, man, did I get piped on Prize Picks last night.
Dude. I don't ever want to hear, oh, well, Daniel Jones, surely he can throw one touchdown. No, never again. Ever. Literally ever.
You want to know the funniest part of my Prize Picks last night? Let me pull out my brand new iPhone 15 Pro Max to open my Prize Picks app here. The worst part about last night was not even Daniel Jones, which was really bad.
Because it's garbage.
I mean, it was not good. Last night, the worst part was DK Metcalf wins in the first quarter, 33.5 yards in the first half, more done.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Wagner was 3.5 or more, I think it was. He had those in the first quarter. Jason Pinnock, the safety of the Giants. I need 3 out of 5 to hit to get my money back.
Yeah, well, how'd that work out?
It was 5 or more. He's at 3 with 12 minutes to go in the game.
Oh, no problem. Plenty of time.
Seattle's running the clock out, just running the football. Good old number 27 of the G-men, just standing at the top of every pile. Yeah, good job, guys. Good tackle.
He's looking down into the Grand Canyon,
Man,
dude.
let me give you a hand up. Oh man, let me tell you, whew,
Bro,
that was awesome tackle.
Jamie Gillen, help me, the punter for the Giants. Now,
the missed field goal piped you.
Me trying to actually do homework on Prize Picks instead of just going off my instinct and full sending it. Yeah, so the punter for the Giants last night. More or less 4.5 punts. Averages 3 punts a game. There's only been, before last night, they'd played 3 games. Pretty reliable. I'm like, okay, cool. That's basically an auto win. All they got to do is basically score 3 times tonight, which really shouldn't be that difficult, right? No. It turns out it was difficult because Buddy punted 5 times last night. Thanks, guys. Thanks. Why don't we throw more Microsoft slates at Daniel Jones on the bench? Man. Man.
Dudes,
I swear.
that was so. And listen, I'm not a Giants fan, but who am I? I'm a Chicago Bears fan.
Are there any Giants fans left? Like, did you guys convert yourself to Eagles fans or Jets fans, or what are we doing?
Last night, Daniel Jones on my Prize Picks, you guys. Daniel Jones, I had 230. I needed 231 yards.
Which really is not a big ask, especially at home.
No, he did 203. Darius Slayton, I needed 41 yards receiving. He had 23, and he dropped a 30-yard bomb. Hit him in the chest. Dropped it. Any of those happen, I win.
But no.
So today I stayed away from baseball.
Yeah, seriously.
Because I'd have taken Glass now, who got shelled.
Yeah.
So when you just don't feel the juju,
And
you're like.
then on top of that, we got Beef Fan doing some beaving today.
Yeah, the beef is real. All right, hour number 2 of the Monty Show, as always, presented by our good friends at The Advocates, theadvocates.com, the best injury attorneys in the business. You guys, if you got hurt at work today, I can't tell you how many people ask me about workman's comp and the advocates. It is so scary when you get hurt at work because you don't know, when am I going to get paid again? Am I going to get paid again? Is my boss going to do what he said he's going to do? Is the company going to take care of me? None of those should be your concern because you went to the advocates, theadvocates.com, where you never come out of pocket to pay the advocates for representation. You only pay the advocates when they win your case, period. No consultations, no retainers, nothing. And the people at the advocates understand what you're going through, and they know, especially when you get hurt at work, there's so much insecurity. What you get at the advocates, yes, you get the best legal representation possible, but you also get peace of mind because there's nothing they haven't seen. They know how to handle your case step by step by step. Let them take all of your nervousness. Let them take all of your animosity. Let them take all of your insecurity. The Advocates at theadvocates.com, where you can chat with one of the elite injury attorneys in the business 24/7, 365 at theadvocates.com. And again, you guys, these are good people we're talking about. I've known the Advocates for over a decade. They are working with The Road Home, which is one of the foremost homeless advocacy groups in the country. And what they're doing is they are trying to get as many Halloween costumes for homeless kids as possible. And I just ask you to go back to your childhood and think about the costumes you wore. Right? I was a fireman. I was a fireman. I was Ryan Sandberg. One year I was Walter Payton. I'll never forget putting on that football helmet, being Walter Payton that year. It was amazing. There are so many kids today who will never have that opportunity because they are homeless. You know what the economy's like. You know what mortgages and rentals are like right now. There's a lot of kids who don't know where they're going to sleep tonight. That's where The Road Home comes in. That's where the Advocates come in. Let's give them a day of normalcy. Let's donate to the Advocates on Venmo. Let me get this banner down for you. There is their Venmo. Screenshot that. Please consider sending $1, $5, $1 million, whatever you can spare. Send it to the Advocates and just put in their Halloween costume.